What makes a good remake is a hard question to answer. When does something need a remake? Does it ever? What does a remake being so much more accessible do to the source material? And if it fundamentally misrepresents that source material, why even bother calling it a remake? Where does the line draw between changing too much and changing too little? When is something a remake, a reimagining, or something else entirely? Well, I don't want to talk about that. That seems hard. I want to rant about a game I hate. I want to talk about a bad remake. I want to talk about Resident Evil 2 2019. When this remake came out, everyone called it a masterpiece, and that's still the general opinion on it. So much that for every Steam review of Resident Evil 3 Remake, you can find praise for RE2's. I remember speedrunners of the original game playing through this remake for the first time and saying, how could they have done better than this? Am I the only person disappointed in this remake? Was I too biased for the original when I played it? Was I being unfair in my expectations of a remake? Well, with over a year's distance from first playing Remake, I decided to give it a second chance. And I gotta be honest, I fucking hate this game. Although I do believe the game is garbage, it isn't without its redeeming qualities, and there are indications that the dev team not only cared about the original game, but the audience that would as well. But the removal of so much story, the deliberate changes made to characters and dialogue, the lack of consideration to what was kept and how it relied on what was cut, and the destruction of the main point of the game, as well as the Resident Evil series as a whole, makes it impossible for me to enjoy this game as a fan of the original. And how I think these changes not only make for a poor remake, but for a poor story in general. But before we can talk about why Remake is bad, we should talk about why it's good. Remake's development team took its reference from the original game, as well as that game's concept art. This is genius, and the Raccoon City Police Station shows why. It's clear there was a lot of consideration in how to make the space work in an actual physical sense, while also keeping the original layout intact. This addition of a central staircase and giving access to the second floor are great changes. The details and indications that people spent their time here, and the little Easter eggs on the walls. I love how there's just building materials everywhere because the RPD is constantly under construction. I love that they kept the dumb staircase out the back. I like the way the puzzles were adapted to have different solutions, but the materials stayed the same. They even made the moving bookcases in the library make sense. This is great, credit where it's due, and I don't think the RPD could have been done any better. Although I do miss the stained glass windows in the main hall, and Claire and Leon having different puzzle items, and having a secret elevator to the sewers be located in the middle of the main hall is a little... how is anyone supposed to use this? The behavior of zombies in this remake is some of the best I've ever seen. I remember watching Crobcat's 300 IQ experiments in Resident Evil 2 video when the demo came out and was blown away. Zombies don't walk around desks, they fall on top of them. They trip over things on the ground, and even when you blow off parts of their body, they still try to bite you. You can shoot them to a ragdoll, but they're never guaranteed to be dead unless you destroy their brain. It's just so good. They remind me a lot of the necromorphs in Dead Space, how you can't actually kill them, and the lore reason for cutting off their limbs is to remove their ability of coming after you.
Jesus!
The one thing the zombies in RE2 have over the remake is how sometimes when you push them off, their arms will stay attached to you for a bit, or when you're grabbed by zombies on the ground, your character will kick their head off. One thing I hate about the zombies in Remake is how slow the animations of being bitten are. In order to make time for the player to use a safety weapon, the animation has to be drawn out, but if you don't have one, it seems to take 1,000 years. And the fuckers on the ground who you can't even use a safety weapon on, and you just have to watch as they crawl up your body, and there's nothing you can do about it. Remake kept a lot of the jump scares from the original, sometimes where they originally appeared or in a switched scenario. They even kept some of Mr. X's original jump scares, though they can be hard to trigger. Seriously, I ran up and down this corridor as Claire for like 30 minutes and he wouldn't do it. I think it may be Leon only. Remake is fun to play, in the same way that most third-person shooters are. The weapons, puzzles, upgrades, and integration of safety weapons, like grenades and knives, are all solid. I actually really like how the knife works in this game, kind of a balance between the safety daggers in the first game's remake and the standard knife. If static cameras and tank controls never make it back to Resident Evil, then I guess this is how it should be done. I guess I should talk about that. Enough time has passed now that I can't really be upset about the third-person shooter thing, especially when I have so many other issues with the game as a remake that this kind of always took a backseat. I remember when it was announced, I was disappointed, like a lot of people were, and I think there's a lot that could be talked about whether or not the presence of fixed camera angles is so intrinsic to the original game that a remake without them simply isn't worth it, or maybe it wouldn't be a remake at all. But I think the expectation of a game this big ever having tank controls and static cameras again is just unrealistic. I love fixed camera angles and would love to see them utilized in horror again, but the return to Resident Evil just doesn't seem possible. Without a doubt, the best part of this remake is Mr. X. Figuring out how he worked was the most fun I had in this game, and hearing his theme and footsteps get louder as he closes in on you is so much fun. His design is intimidating, he punches everything that's in his way, and there's always the question of, he can't come in here, right? All of his animations are a lot of fun, or surprisingly scary. Did you know he can jump on your head? This can kill you. This is the one part of the game that I can say was actually made better in the remake, the only thing that was improved and expanded on from the original game, and the dev team knew it too, putting him in A scenario. This is genuinely the saddest part of the game. I hate this part. Ugh, this is miserable. I hate this. Ugh. Goodbye, King. You were the best part of this game. I will say the way they adapted the X monitor smash is dumb. It's scary in the original because you're halfway through the game and haven't seen him for a while. Then if you happen to check this monitor, you see him in the hallway you were just in. In Remake, you see this footage before even meeting X, and he's clearly in the East Hall, but if you run down there, he can't be found. He can't be found anywhere until his spawn up outside the STAR's office. But my personal favorite thing in Remake is so small you may have missed it. Some things in RE2 are locked to each scenario. A always fights rejected G, B always fights Birkin. A always kills the alligator, B always fights Mr. X. B rides on top of the train, A hangs on underneath it. A scenario always gets a cutscene in the West Hall to reveal a new enemy type, and the player character always reacts to it. Claire will gasp and say, "Oh my," but Leon... In Remake, the player character will say random bits of profanity while aiming.
You asshole! What the hell is up with you? Oh no. Bitch. Fuck you.
But Leon has a unique line.
Oh boy.
For how well the RPD was designed, the other areas of the game are lacking. The sewer is fine, as annoying as the rejected GR. The lab, however, I can't say the same for. It may just be a personal pet peeve against the whole clean, white, futuristic setting, but I just hate the way it looks. Like, why is it so big? For a secret lab built in the sewer, it sure is roomy. The lab in the original is mechanical and clunky, and it feels a lot more like a lab making use of the space it's been given than giving space to make a lab. Does that make sense? My favorite part of the labs in Resident Evil are how they're forced to adapt to whatever Umbrella finds them, like a mansion in the woods or a maintenance area in the sewer. This lab doesn't look like it was built in a sewer, it looks like a state-of-the-art facility with more empty space than actual technology. Also, why are there so many entrances? There's at least one in the RPD, one in the orphanage, and one in the city. For a secret lab, it's very accessible. I will say that once you're inside the lab, I like it fine. This living area and lab especially, but traversing these huge catwalks, I just don't get why everything's so far away from each other. Oh, and fuck this shit. This lab where no work has ever been done. Are you kidding me with this use of space? There's like 2 shitty tables and no equipment but a microscope. And why do you go through decontamination just to go on another catwalk? Why would it be designed like this? And this is the only decon room, implying that this room is the main lab. There's no equipment here. RE2 shows 7 different stages of Birkin's transformation. In fact, a lot of the time when you see him, he looks different from the last time you met, and then transforms further. It really felt like he was changing even when you weren't looking at him. I still think the transformations in this game look good, honestly. It really looks like something is splitting him open, something we know the G-Virus to do. And you watch it grow until nothing recognizable of Birkin remains. Remake's Birkin has 5 stages of transformation, and at least to me, the G-Virus looks a lot more like something that's growing on him than something coming out of him. And they never really show any of the transformations, and when they do, it's shown way too close to even see anything, or during a fight, so you never really get a good look at it anyway. The designs aren't bad. They're honestly the one thing that I hated less when looking at this game again. I just miss really seeing Birkin be pushed aside by this thing. I don't think you get the same feeling of consumption that the original had. It really felt like you were being followed by this thing and got to see every little change it went through. Birkin was chasing you, and you never knew when he would catch up. In Remake, it just kind of feels like you're being given a bigger monster to fight. Birkin doesn't really exist until you need to fight him and drop down into his boss pit. The other part to this was that in RE2, I always felt like I was fighting Birkin, but does anyone even think of Birkin at this point in the game? Is it anything but a big monster to shoot? And why does it look like Ripley's alien baby? Birkin's second fight is easily the worst in the game, with this inclusion of environmental attack, but maybe that's just a personal opinion, unlike the rest of this video, which is objective fact. All that said, what the fuck is up with Mr. X's final form? In RE2, X falls into a... what is that? Like a vat of molten metal? He falls into some hot red stuff and emerges with his outer skin burned away, evolving into a super tyrant not unlike the ones from the first game or RE0. But in Remake, ugh, god, he looks like Brock Lesnar with a big arm. He looks like shitty Kratos. Why'd he get so wide? Is his jacket tied around his waist? He looks like that Kylo Ren meme. I think what makes this design more disappointing than it otherwise might be is that he looked so good before. He was so effortlessly scary, but here he just looks like those guys who inject oil into their biceps. He's gotten so wide, it's silly looking. The fucking live action trailer. Oh my god, not a part of the game, but I'm talking about it anyway. They only made it because the original game had one, and yeah, it's awesome. It was made by George fucking Romero. It's fast and fun, and it gets me pumped up every time I watch it. It's amazing. Not whatever the fuck this shit is, this lazy one-take piece of garbage. The gate bangs open behind him, and it's like, should we do a second take, boss? No? I'll just keep going then. Look at this stupid-ass pose they do at the end. Why are they looking at me like that? God, it's just so shit, and has nearly 1 million views. The original only has 91,000. What the fuck? To gain access to the other costumes in RE2, you had to make it to the police station without picking anything up. Brad Vickers, known as that asshole who left you in RE1 and that asshole who dies in RE3, will appear as a zombie in the underpass to the RPD. If you kill him, he drops a key which opens this locker and gives you access to a costume or two, a bonus weapon for Claire, and a faster fire rate for Leon. By the way, where are these costumes, Capcom? I can't have cowboy, biker, Claire, but you can give me whatever the fuck this is. Anyway, this bonus weapon does make it into Remake, but only in B scenario, and it's clearly a last-minute reference. And though I like the idea, it's a pretty clumsy execution. The weapons take a special kind of ammo. This is fine for the most part, as it's what you find dropped in the game. However, the only kind of ammo you can mix is for the regular handgun, making you switch back and forth to use what ammo you have. It just feels kinda clumsy. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of using real people's faces in games, as they tend to look kind of pasted on, and if the actor is recognizable enough, I can't even see them as the character, like that's just Norman Reedus. But I'm not gonna rag on the faces too much, they're fine. Although Claire does look like she was stung by a bunch of bees sometimes, like the only person in this game with more Botox is Leon, but that's not unlike the original. And the animations can look a little... Call that a Mass Effect Andromeda smile. Call that a trip to the dentist. Speaking of Leon, there's really not much to say. His redesign is virtually just his original outfit, but adapted to make more sense realistically. Instead of shoulder pads, it's a bulletproof vest, that kind of thing. Looks good. They even kept the elbow pads. Annette, Marvin, and Irons all look good. Sherry also looks great. Love the messy hair. Kids have messy hair. Cute. Good detail. When you look at Claire's original design, there are 3 main components: pink, embroidered jacket, and a short-sleeved black turtleneck. Remake didn't include any of these things. And what's worse is that the design is boring. So they didn't include anything from the original character, and they didn't even bother to make it interesting. She doesn't look like a 19-year-old biker from the 90s, she looks like someone who works with your mom. You know, like she'd work for a humanitarian group or... Oh. That's the wrong game, guys. That's the wrong game? That's the wrong... Claire in RE2 is iconic. It's instantly recognizable, like Heather from Silent Hill 3 or even Aya from Parasite Eve. This kind of just makes her look like a background character. It's funny too because they added this opening shot on the embroidery of her jacket, but because it's so faint, you can't even see it and it's just zoomed in on her back for no reason. In the original game, Ada was already in Raccoon when the outbreak happened, and the dress is just what she happened to be wearing when everything went to hell. Remake made the change that Ada came to Raccoon after the outbreak happened to get the G virus, so this is her zombie fighting outfit of choice. The addition of heels is especially funny because in the remake, Ada already knows the lab is in the sewer, so this is the outfit she chose to wear while running around a sewer full of zombies. Also, her wearing sunglasses inside at night looks really stupid. Sorry, but man. There's concept art of them playing around with the idea of combining the trench coat with the red dress, and, well, we could have had it all, folks. A lot of these designs would have been better, honestly. Look how cool some of them are. They turned her tights into huge boots. Like, that's a really cool idea. This concept art actually reveals something about the design process and why I think Claire looks so bad. You can see they included Ada's RE6 outfit in their adaptation ideas, so them thinking about Claire in Revelations 2 looks less like a joke and more like a real possibility. I feel like this is confirmed by Leon's looking the best, because he doesn't have a modern RPD uniform to influence his redesign. I think this was a pretty bad idea, one they ended up not using for Ada. Also, remember when Claire had cool jackets? I miss that. There are unlockable classic costumes in the game, but strangely, they aren't actually the classic costumes. They're inspired by the classic costumes, but presumably the redesigns were as well. Leon's is the most accurate, despite him already being the most similar. Claire's is missing several key components. Sherry's is fine, it's just not a classic costume. And odder still, Ada doesn't even get one. Oh well, I just used the classic 98 skin anyway. I hate when games have openings you need to get through before you're allowed to actually play the game, and Remake has 3 of these. First, you need to get through the gas station, then you need to get through the East Hall, then you need to meet the other character, and only then can you begin to really play the game. This is why B scenario is better, it just cuts all this shit out. You also don't have to interact with Marvin in B scenario. Making Marvin a bit more of a character isn't a horrible idea in and of itself, but having a character you need to answer to in a survival horror game fucking sucks. I love the feeling of exploring in these games, and having someone you need to report to, and who tells you what you need to do, is just so antithetical to the theme of horror, at least to me anyway. It's annoying how you can't access a fresh game, so all the unlocked weapons you have are just clogging your item box forever. It's so dumb that during Birkin's lab fight, the computer lady is literally saying you can't leave the room until you beat the boss. Remake cut out a lot of the story, including the funniest scene in the game.
Stay back! Don't come any closer! Stay back!
I wish Remake had any of the fun death animations, or included the "this item is useless, discard" message. I also would have loved to see the endgame portraits return, Leon's party hats, or literally any of the iconic lines. Resident Evil 2 is a unique experience that offers 2 different stories told 4 different ways, all depending on which side of a car a person's on after a crash. Sometimes Sherry gets infected, sometimes she doesn't. Sometimes Ada has the G virus from the middle of the game, sometimes she has to take it by force. Sometimes Annette gets to say goodbye to her daughter, and sometimes she never sees her at all. This is a large part of what makes RE2 so special and interesting. Remake's production of this, of having only 1 story and 2 perspectives, I don't agree with. I think it misses a large part of what was so great about RE2, and although I disagree with this change, I do at least understand why they'd make it. What I don't understand is why they didn't make a cohesive story. Instead of choosing one of the existing paths in the game, they tried to merge all of them. And although it might be possible to do this successfully, Remake does not. There are loopholes, continuity errors, and inconsistent character choices that wouldn't exist if they just kept to one of the original stories. Like Annette dying in 2 different places, or how completely fucked Leon and Ada's story is by trying to merge the 2 scenarios. How there's no way both Claire and Leon are interacting with these areas at the same time. In Remake, you arrive immediately at the station, and after being there for 5 minutes, meet the other character. The first thing B scenario does is go to the main hall, so Marvin already being a zombie doesn't work with the first scenario. Remake also made the change that there's only 1 puzzle in the station and that it's located in the main hall. This is a bad idea if I'm supposed to believe that Leon and Claire never run into each other. In the original game, Leon and Claire's puzzles are on opposite sides of the station, so it's more believable that they aren't running into each other. There are a few indications in the game that scenario swapping wasn't even an original intention. Take for instance the continuity error in the garage. In Leon A, he encounters dogs in the parking garage kennels. He then turns the power on, letting them out. Later, in Claire B, we see that the dogs are dead, and in their place are lickers feeding on their corpses. Thing is, this isn't scenario locked, so if you play Claire A and Leon B, the lickers and blood will disappear and become dogs. In the original game, both Leon and Claire will fight Birkin on the tram, but whoever's in B's scenario will see Birkin at a later stage of transformation, because it's taking place later in the game. In RE2, each scenario has different bosses in different areas, and the only fight that's repeated is with Birkin on the tram. B's scenario gets access to an entire different section of the lab and is in charge of getting the train up and running. There are no Leon or Claire exclusive areas, made in an effort to differentiate the game. In B's scenario, Claire needs to visit the parking garage, and Leon needs to visit Iron's office. Claire and Leon also had different puzzle solutions in the station. Remake is exhausting to play all 4 scenarios because it's the same game every time. Claire A plays exactly like Claire B, Leon A is exactly like Leon B, and Claire and Leon's games aren't even that different to begin with. Here's another thing, Sherry's necklace has no reason to exist. In the original, it was a way for Ada to get the G-Virus, or it was a way for Claire to save Sherry and kill Mr. X. In the remake, it serves no purpose but to open a locked cabinet that for Leon isn't locked anyway. This is such a great example of how much of the original story was lost, and the remnants left behind sure look like RE2, but their purpose has been entirely cut away. The writing in this game is awful, and it's evident right away. In a game that cut out an entire scenario and rushed the few scenes it did keep, why does the game begin with over 2 minutes of watching a man eat a burger? It's such a weird tone setter, it's slow and off-putting and not relevant to anything. All this build-up just to establish that there was a truck driver that got bit by a zombie. You know how the original did it?
Guy's a maniac. Why'd he bite me?
Quick, concise, we get all the information we need and we don't need to see how much mustard he can get in his beard. Then we finally begin the game, with Claire on a payphone reassuring a friend she arrived safe, and
Why does everyone think I'm gonna get in trouble?
because haha. She enters the store and comes across a man bleeding from the neck. Instead of turning around and going back to the established payphone to call an ambulance, she says,
Wait here. I'll check it out.
"Check what out, Claire? A man is dying. Claire? Claire? Claire." Then they meet. Leon is annoying.
You can thank me later, when we're safe.
Then they get into a cop car and drive away, because that's what happened in the original, right? Problem is, the entire reason that Leon and Claire get into a random cop car that just happens to have the keys in it is as a means to get Claire, a college student, a gun. In Remake, Claire starts the game with a gun. This is fine, I guess, but they still get in a random cop car when Leon's Jeep is right there. Like, why would you take that chance? Leon and Claire's first real conversation happens on the drive to the RPD. In RE2, Claire sees the cop car and the outfit and sarcastically asks,
"You're a cop, right?"
In Remake, all Leon says is,
Hopefully they'll have some answers at the police station.
and from that alone, Claire intuits.
Wait, you're a cop?
It may seem like I'm being overly picky here, but it's just early examples of things being changed for no reason while keeping other things the same without realizing why they were happening in the first place. Claire isn't saying you're a cop, right, for no reason. She's making a joke and letting Leon introduce himself to the player. They don't get in a cop car because it looks cool, they do it because there's a reasonable belief one would find a gun inside. The beginning of RE2 is fast and exciting. We meet our characters, they arrive in town, and then all shit breaks loose and it's a mad dash to safety. Leon speeds through the city and crashes into a pole, and they don't get a moment's rest before a truck comes barreling down the road toward them.
Maniac's gonna ram us! Run!
The beginning of Remake is so slow. They spend nearly 3 minutes in this car, and not once do they say something worth listening to. Leon is barely crawling along these streets in this car, and apparently they've been driving long enough that Claire's bored against the windowsill. The remake has them meeting outside of town, so who knows how long this drive into the city was. Even when the truck is coming towards them, it's boring.
Holy shit. There, get out.
It's also unclear what's even happening. There's this shot of the police car dripping gas, and then everything explodes. In the original, it's clear that the truck is a gasoline tanker, and that's why everything is on fire. We get to the police station, Marvin gives me a microaggression,
Obviously someone taught you well.
and then Claire randomly pulls out her gun before immediately reholstering it. Was this where she was originally supposed to get a gun? Like how Leon gets a uniform? She takes out the radio Marvin gives her next, so it feels like she's showing off new gear to the player. I don't have an answer or anything, it's just something I noticed. I feel like there's a lot of elements in this game that look left over from a different script. Also, the security footage is so funny. Why is he just standing at the gate staring at it? What's he doing? Like a dog looking at a baby gate. I haven't paused it, by the way. This is how long it goes on for. And then we get our first real taste of how the dialogue in this game is going to go.
Leon, we really gotta stop meeting like this.
I take it you don't have the key.
No, I don't. It's good to see your face, though. How are you holding up?
What?
Hell of a night, huh?
It's so nice to see you.
How are you doing? Helicopter just came out of nowhere.
How are you doing?
You know, just surviving.
What is going on? Why are you having this conversation about nothing? Why aren't they talking about anything? They're just saying platitudes back to back while smiling like imbeciles. It's so fucking weird. Finally, Leon asks if she's found her brother, a reasonable question, but the helicopter erupts, so they can't continue the conversation now that it's actually relevant to something. Claire tells Leon to get going, and they still won't stop saying nothing to each other. Why is he just standing there? Was he so riveted by that boring-ass small talk? And he turns around like,
We're gonna make it. Both of us.
it's conversations like this that actually make me glad they never talk again for the whole game. In RE2, this conversation happens in the STAR's office, or in the adjoining hall. Sometimes Claire has seen Sherry and will ask about her. Both times they talk about her brother and how he's left the city. They then make a plan to find survivors and look for a way out together. Leon gives Claire a radio to keep in touch, and they part ways.
There's no reason for us to stay any longer than necessary. Let's split up, look for any survivors, and get out of here.
Right.
This scene in the original establishes a few things. B character has made it to the police station, the conclusion that the station doesn't offer anything and that they should leave as quickly as possible, the priority of finding a way out of town while also looking for survivors, and establishing a way of communication between Claire and Leon. What does this scene do? It tells us that B character has made it to the station, but you never talk to them again anyway. So, Leon and Claire in Remake only talk one other time at the very end of the game, and that conversation has no point either. During the self-destruct sequence, Leon sees Claire on a monitor and calls to tell her that she needs to leave the lab. During a self-destruct sequence, while she's already in the process of leaving. That's the whole point of the scene. Great job. There's a theme of pointlessness to every conversation in this game, particularly the opening and ending cutscenes. It's like the developers didn't know there were conversations in the original, so they were just making it up as they went along. Like they thought these characters couldn't possibly have anything to talk about, so they just filled it with air. But they had so much source material, I just don't get it, and it's just so bad to watch. I love this cutscene where Claire calls Marvin on the radio to tell him there are zombies everywhere. Like, what do you want him to do about it? Also, this is the last time the radio was used, making that a grand total of twice. Like, why even bother? Like, why not let the player explore and find the other character at the gate naturally instead of being called back to Marvin and watching them stare at the gate like an idiot for several minutes? Leon changing into a police outfit is so fucking stupid. Like, I get why they did it like this, but I'd sooner believe he picked it up early or at another station before arriving. Maybe they shipped it to him, I don't know, you don't have to explain everything. But the fact that in the middle of a zombie outbreak he decides to switch up his look is so funny. Like, they didn't even wreck his other clothing or anything. Can you imagine what Marvin must be thinking in this scene? Did he ask for them? It's so stupid. Why does he change into a cop uniform? Where did they even get it? And in B's scenario, it's even funnier because he just sees one and is like, guess I should put this on.
Yeah, well, I was supposed to start last week and I got a call to stay away.
What? This makes no sense because we know Irons was keeping communication out of the city, but did he give Leon a quick courtesy call before cutting the landline? This makes no sense, and they could have just not said anything. In the original game's official guide, the reason why Leon is late is because he broke up with his girlfriend and got drunk to the point of oversleeping for a week. But I guess they thought that was unbecoming of an officer, and so on Twitter, a member of the dev team said he was at home on standby, waiting for his orders. Okay, I'll talk more about this later, but the removal of Leon's backstory will make more sense. He isn't allowed to experience heartbreak and be sad over a breakup, because that would make him human. Instead, he just sits in his house all day, awaiting orders like a good cop. I hate how every puzzle solution is told to you in this game. The Notebook, Marvin, Ada, everyone's telling you how to do things. Just let me look around, damn. Oh, here's something stupid. When Leon enters the basement, Birkin is running in the vents above him, replacing Sherry from Claire's game. A change that makes no sense because the whole point of Sherry traveling in the vents was because Birkin and the zombies couldn't get her in there. So, oops. In the original RE2, Birkin isn't your first boss fight. A scenario always fights a rejected G, and you never fight Birkin until the middle of the game, so you end up hearing a lot about him before you ever see him. In Remake, the first time you even hear about Birkin is when you meet him during the first boss fight. After Leon fights Birkin, a ladder drops to let him out of the boss pit, and he says,
Somebody's watching me.
which I guess the implication is that Ada dropped it for him, and how does that work? Like, Sherry drops the ladder for Claire, but Leon doesn't have a friend with him, so it just drops on its own. This would have been fine if he didn't mention it. This happens several times in the game. There's a loophole, so they have Leon remark on it.
Somebody's watching me.
Huh. That was easy.
Where did this thing come from?
If he didn't mention it, I wouldn't give a shit. Boss is dead, so a way out appears, like every other game. But you have the character draw attention to it, so I say, yeah, you're right. That was easy. Almost like it's a plot hole the dev team didn't think was worth fixing. Thanks for drawing attention to that, Leon. There's no continuity between Claire and Leon's game in Remake. You fight the same bosses in the same places. You take the same routes through the station and the lab, only differing to Iron's office or the garage. They tell the same story without making room for how Annette keeps dying in different places. That was the whole point of having different scenarios in the original game, to tell a different but cohesive story. B scenario always has to fix the train, and A scenario always fights Birkin before the final elevator. This creates a feeling of being delayed and makes the scene of A scenario's character running out to meet a moving train feel more exciting and less convenient. A and B already know about the train and have had to communicate in order to get it running. When Leon makes it off the world's longest elevator, he just finds the train and hops on. Lucky day. I also really like how Ada always gives a rocket launcher to the character in B scenario, and this is Claire's only interaction with her. I always thought the idea that Sherry was locked to A scenario and Ada B could have been really interesting. There are so many things Remake could have expanded on, but all they did was take away. Also, you can't damage Birkin on the train until his eyeball comes out, so you're just left standing there waiting, listening to your character embarrass themselves.
Hope you like bullets, because I got a hell of a lot more!
But Remake's biggest flaw isn't its bland character designs or its cut content, it's the fundamental misunderstanding of its characters. In RE2, Claire Redfield arrives at a diner in Raccoon City and finds the place overrun with zombies. She meets a cop, gets a gun, and tells him she's here to find her brother.
You're a cop, right?
Yeah, first day on the job. Great, huh? Name's Leon Kennedy. Nice to meet you.
Mine's Claire. Claire Redfield. I came to find my brother, Chris.
They agree to try the police station as it seems the safest place to go, and they both have business there anyway. Leon crashes, and depending on the scenario you picked, this decides which way the car spins and who reaches the station first, ultimately changing the fate of the people they meet. Claire's search for her brother leads her to his desk, where she learns he's out of town. Before she can leave, a fax comes in, and this is our introduction to Chief Irons. There are several notes in the game about Irons, detailing his involvement with Umbrella, his history of sexual assault, and how he's a creepy, violent man to work for. Upstairs, Claire hears a scream coming from behind the crashed remains of a helicopter, and the area becomes a place of interest. After working to clear the wreckage, Claire enters the room and is confronted with a body.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I thought you were another one of those zombies. That's the mayor's daughter. I was told to look after her, but I failed miserably. Just look at her. She was a true beauty. Her skin nothing short of perfection. But it will soon putrefy and she will turn into a zombie within the hour like all the others. And to think that taxidermy used to be my hobby. But no longer. Please. I'd really like to be alone now.
Leaving to the next room, Claire properly meets Sherry for the first time. When asked why she's at the station, Sherry says her mother called and told her it would be safer here. This is true, as there's evidence that a large group of survivors was staying at the station. But where are they now? When you go to leave through Iron's office, he and the body are gone. After completing the puzzle in Iron's office, Claire takes Iron's secret elevator to the sewers for her first boss fight.
So you've made it this far. Not bad, girl. But I'm not letting anyone leave my town. Everyone's gonna die.
Irons rants to Claire about how Umbrella screwed him over. Injured and spiteful, Irons is spiraling in his anger, and Claire is subject to listen to him. He croons about Umbrella destroying his beautiful city and only talks about the G-Virus when prompted to by Claire. He explains through his upset what exactly the G-Virus is and that Birkin is Sherry's father. This is Claire's entire relationship with Irons. He doesn't care about Claire or Sherry or anyone at all. The only person Irons cares about is himself. He's a corrupt officer obsessed with power and the position he has to wield it, and he's pissed because Umbrella took that away from him.
Those monsters from Umbrella have destroyed my beautiful town. How could they do that to me after everything I've done for them?
Irons grew impatient with the survivors in the station, with his command to watch over the mayor's daughter. Umbrella took away the control he had over the city, but he still has control over its station. Irons played the most dangerous game with the survivors in the RPD, the last of which was the woman you found on his desk. He also cut the phone lines from the city so no one could call for help. This is what Irons cares about, this last effort of exerting control over people. He doesn't care about Claire or why she's here, he has no reason to. All he cares about is control, and she's just another person in his police station. And if he's going to die here, well, so is she.
But if I have to go, I'm going to take you with me.
One last grip on control from a spiraling man, violent and furious at this slight against him. But there are figures at play outside of his control, and Irons dies because of them.
Bitter irony.
Remake thought it would be a good idea to have a character whose entire backstory is that he's a rapist, tie up and beat their game's female protagonist. Wow. Good one, guys. Remake really said Irons can beat up one more woman before he dies, as a treat. And the thing is, it's completely pointless. Irons enters the scene holding a gun on her and Sherry. Why is this not enough? Why tie her up when she's already complying and frees herself seconds later anyway? If Irons only wanted the pendant and not Sherry, why doesn't he just take it and let them go? Why does he want the pendant in the first place? Irons doesn't care about the G-Virus. He doesn't even care all that much about Umbrella when it isn't about what he can get from them. There's no speech in Remake about what Irons wants or what his goal is, but in RE2, Irons hates Umbrella because of what they've done to his city. Because they went and messed up a good thing. Irons had control of his force, control of his city, and Umbrella lining his pockets. He has no vested interest in their goals, just the protection money they offer him. The only thing Remake tells us about Irons is that he wants the pendant. Why? Am I supposed to believe that Irons is going to, what, go through the entire sewer area and then the lab to get the G-Virus? For what? To destroy it? And why does he even need the pendant? I mean, Leon didn't. I can only assume this is Irons' goal because the game doesn't tell us anything. Irons likes tangible power. What would destroying the G-Virus do for him? Irons doesn't want to make Umbrella pay. He's too focused on himself, mourning his loss of power and stewing in his fury. This outbreak is about him and his losses. To Irons, it's all over. Irons' story was always going to end in self-destruction. He just wanted to destroy everyone else first. Even though you interact with Irons a lot more in RE2, it's never personal. In Remake, Claire gets her arms tied behind her back even though she wasn't resisting, and when she hears that Irons wants to take Sherry with him, this is her response.
You heard her. I swear to God, my brother is stars and I...
Like Irons is a school bully pulling pigtails and not a violent man with a gun at her head. What the fuck is Chris going to do, Claire? You don't even know where he is. It's like telling a mugger, wait till I tell the cops about this. What do they care? They still have your wallet. Stupid thing to say. Why is the only thing Claire has in this situation a weightless threat of telling her brother Irons is being mean? Why isn't Claire given any tangible way of fighting this? The whole point is Irons doesn't care about Claire personally, something Remake must have realized because they directly reference it.
Are you Chief Irons?
Yes, that's me. And just who are you? No, don't bother telling me. It makes no difference.
What's your name? What's your fucking name?
Claire!
Why such a deliberate change? This scene of a rapist tying up and standing over Claire, all while holding a gun to her chin, fucking sucks and was totally unnecessary. Because despite making Irons even shittier, despite making it personal, there's no payoff. His death is completely flaccid and anticlimactic. You just find him in a hallway and an embryo comes out of his stomach. In RE2, Irons finishes a big speech about control and entitlement, with the rejected G splitting him in half, or Birkin chewing him up and sending him 20 feet in the air. In RE2, Claire faces Iron's bruised ego by saying,
Calm down, Chief. What happened?
"Why don't you go do some taxidermy and maybe you'll calm down?" In Remake, Claire is tied up, beaten, threatened, and watches a murderer and a rapist steal a child. And what does she say?
You heard her. I swear to God, my brother is stars and I will fuck.
Claire threatening to tell on Irons to her brother is ridiculous, but it's also implying Claire can't do anything about this herself. But Irons was never her problem, so they invented a scenario where Irons is threatening Sherry and dominating Claire, but they then don't give Claire any means to fight back against this. They make Irons way grosser and make his contact with Claire personal, but don't give her anything to make that fair. Why add this? All this scene adds is a gross power dynamic that doesn't exist in the original, and displays Claire as having so little influence as to need her brother to come in and help. So all you did was have a man beat up a woman, and then the woman say she needs another man to deal with this. Great addition. Irons went from a man spiraling at his loss of power, and desperate to drag everyone else down with him in an attempt to get it back, to a dude that abuses women until a man comes in and stops him. In Remake, Annette's contribution to the creation of the G-Virus is a lot more recognized, and her interest in Birkin after he infects himself is scientific. I like these changes, but unfortunately this is where her character starts and ends, leaving out Annette's most crucial characteristic, an all-encompassing love for her family. When Claire first meets Annette in the sewers, she makes the connection that she must be Sherry's mother. Annette is so surprised at the mention of her daughter, she forgets all about accusing Claire of being a spy.
Then you must be Annette. Sherry's mother?
What?
Sherry's wandering around alone in the sewers. You have to help me find her.
That's impossible. I told her to go to the police station. What's she doing here? William will be after her.
After hearing Sherry scream, they agree to split up and look for her.
It's Sherry! You go that way.
The one thing Annette cared about more than her research, more than protecting her husband's legacy, is Sherry. Compare this with what happens in Remake when Claire mentions Sherry for the first time.
Do you know Sherry?
It's an impressive display of strength.
What happened to her?
We have to assess the situation. I didn't foresee this.
Excuse me. Where is she? Hello?
What?
Can you help me find Sherry?
Seems to be evolving much faster than expected.
Annette is so distracted by her research that she doesn't care about anything else. Claire mentions Sherry by name 5 times, and Annette doesn't even look up. In RE2, Annette literally holds Claire at gunpoint, demanding she tell her where her daughter is.
Annette!
Where's Sherry? Which room? Tell me. Sherry!
The next time we see either Sherry or Annette, they're having a conversation, something that never happens in the original game outside of one scenario where Annette is dying, and it's played like some poor kid with a workaholic parent thing, like Sherry's at home alone and not literally in the middle of a zombie outbreak with a huge monster specifically after her.
Sherry, I told you, I cannot leave here until my work is done.
That's what you always say.
Annette spends the whole game trying to find her daughter. Having Remake bring them together just to have Annette brush her off is infuriating. They even have her chastise Sherry and yell at her before cutting off communication.
I was scared. Those things were everywhere, and...
You should have called the police. That's what we taught you.
I did, but nobody came, and you didn't answer your phone, so...
Sherry, I don't have time for this.
We never see Birkin infect Sherry in the remake, but it's implied to have only happened through this neglect from Annette. Annette would have literally killed for the opportunity to see her daughter again, to be given the opportunity to protect her and get her out of this mess. In RE2, she's terrified at the idea of Birkin finding Sherry, but in the remake, she doesn't even care when she gets infected, claims there's nothing that can be done despite an antidote already mixed and waiting.
Sherry's been implanted. She can't be saved.
But wait, she can treat her?
Wait! I can treat her. In my lab.
No, wait, she can't.
There's not enough time. Sherry, Mommy loves you, sweetie. Goodbye.
What an incredible disservice to a woman who literally used her last breath instructing a stranger on how to save her daughter's life.
How can I save Sherry?
I have detailed information. Everything you need to know to prepare the antidote is right here.
Or to reassure Sherry that she loves her. Watching this scene...
What are you doing? I'm here to help. She can't be saved. Are you fucking kidding me? You're her mother. Get in here! This conversation is over! Goodbye. Are you fucking kidding me? Sherry, don't worry. I will get you whatever you need, okay?
Why are you doing this?
Because I care.
Is infuriating. This idea that, thank God Claire is here to care about Sherry, otherwise who knows what would have happened, because her mother clearly doesn't. Why make the change that Annette doesn't care about her daughter when it was the only thing she cared about in the original, the only thing that distracted her from avenging her husband or hiding away the G-virus? This idea that if Claire wasn't there, Sherry would have died only because Annette wouldn't have cared enough to help her is disgusting. I can't express how angry this makes me. It centers everything on Claire when not everything is about her, and writes out the love Annette has for Sherry. And for what? To make Claire look like more of a hero? Sherry has this dumb I don't want my locket anymore because my mom gave it to me and I'm mad at her moment, failing to replicate the scene from RE2 where Sherry talks about being lonely a lot of the time and missing her mum. In this scene, Sherry also talks about how it was hard to depend on her mother sometimes because she was always busy at work. This does not translate to Annette would clearly let Sherry die if it got in the way of her looking under a microscope. Dear God, so she missed a recital one time. It doesn't mean she wants the kid dead. Anyway, this whole scene is justification for Claire having the locket in order to open up a case that for Leon isn't even locked. So, that was well thought out. You could even argue the whole reason they changed Annette to not care about Sherry was to get Sherry to not want her locket, which was to get Claire in possession of the locket, which is used to open a cabinet that for Leon isn't locked anyway.
I
love this scene, by the way, where there's a bed right in front of her, but Claire still looks around like, where do I put the sick child? And wow, how convenient that there's just an open email on the existence of an antiviral agent that makes so much more sense than any other alternative. Annette reintroduces the existence of freeze rounds into Resident Evil, which is pretty cool. When I saw this for the first time, I knew it was confirmation for an RE3 remake. But then that remake was announced to release only a year after this game, and I lost all interest. In this flashback where Birkin injects himself with the G-virus, Annette is standing right in front of the cabinet with the antiviral agent in it. But I guess she couldn't open it because her daughter has the key or something. But I guess she wouldn't have wanted to help him anyway, because in Remake...
Honestly, we were more married to our work than each other.
Not true. Annette loved Birkin almost as much as she loved her daughter. That was her entire motivation in RE2. She loved him so much, she was willing to kill to protect his legacy. And ultimately, love for Birkin is what gets her killed. But okay, go off Remake. Be one-dimensional. Have a woman be interested in her work, but only at the loss of love for her husband and child. This response is even more infuriating because it's Claire telling her it's understandable she wouldn't be able to kill her husband. So even when offered permission, the explicit excuse to love her family, they have Annette specifically say that wasn't why. But thank God, Claire is here to convince Annette to care about her daughter.
I got this. You should take care of Sherry.
Annette needs to be told to go see her dying daughter. She needs to be told to go give her daughter a cure to her illness. Ugh. Thank God for Claire. What would have happened without her? In RE2, there are two endings to Annette and Sherry's storyline. Either Sherry gets infected and Annette dies before they can meet, or Sherry is awake and finds her mother as she's dying from Birkin's assault. I wanted to keep this tonally sad, but Birkin literally brains her in the head with a pipe, saving Leon's life. In this ending, Annette tells Sherry to escape and that she loves her. Annette asks for forgiveness, and then she dies.
Mom! Mom!
Sherry, you have to escape. I know I've been a terrible mother, but I still love you. Forgive me.
Sherry, we have to go now.
Claire tells Sherry that they have to leave, but she remains immovable and unresponsive. and only gets up when you pick up the master key to leave. In Remake, Annette isn't allowed to tell Sherry she loves her, but thank God Claire is there to tell Sherry that theoretically her mother loved her.
Save my daughter.
No!
Sherry! Sherry, just say goodbye to your mom. Mom, please say goodbye. Please, Sherry. Listen. She loved you, okay?
And then, 5 seconds after her mother dies, Sherry says,
You were right about this jacket. I'm so lucky to have you.
What? What kind of perspective is that? She went through 10 years of therapy and self-reflection in the time it took her to stand up. Are you fucking kidding me? But we have to know just how great Claire is. Did you know? Claire is crying over Annette's body because this scene is about Claire and not about Annette or Sherry, which is why Claire must be immediately reassured that she's a great person. In RE2, Claire and Sherry are separated and she finds her already beside her mother. Claire doesn't say anything because she doesn't have to. And we, the audience, know that this is a sad moment. Sherry doesn't respond, doesn't move until you make her leave. This scene is sad. Sherry's grief is shown. There's no ill-timed expressions of gratitude to Claire, no half-hearted reassurances about a woman she didn't know. They aren't needed. The scene is strong enough, and the story respects its characters enough for the player to know what's happening. Also, after Sherry says how lucky she is to know Claire, this is her response.
We can talk more about that later.
Like, yeah, be sure to tell me how great I am again later. Annette's goals in RE2 are to find her daughter, to protect the G-Virus, and, after finding Birkin dead on the tram, avenge her husband. Annette's motivations are all centered on what matters to her most, her work and her family. There are two things in the world Annette must keep safe, and so she keeps them together. In RE2, Annette pleads with Birkin to stay alive while she goes and finds aid. In Remake, Annette is in front of a cabinet containing the antidote but doesn't even try to give it to him. In Remake, Annette's only goal is to kill Birkin because
I couldn't let my daughter grow up in a world with the G-Virus in it.
But then why was she making it in the first place? If Annette wanted to destroy the G-Virus, that would make things a lot more simple, wouldn't it? But she doesn't. That's her and her husband's life's work. Her husband died for the G-Virus. She doesn't want to destroy it. That's what makes things complicated. That's why she spends the whole game trying to protect it from the people who were sent to take it. If she wanted it destroyed, why would there be a whole case of it? Why would she fear spies? Remake's writing really operates under the idea that, so long as we end up in the same place, how we get there doesn't matter. Most of these changes I don't understand, but for Annette's at least I do. In RE2, Claire has to make the antiviral agent from scratch, taking the base and mixing it herself. Because the antidote in Remake already exists, and they moved the mixing element to a different part of the game, they still had to have Claire be directly involved in getting Sherry the cure. This is how they chose to do that. What utter dog shit. Every character in Remake is a one-dimensional, hollow interpretation of themselves. No one can care about more than one thing, and it's all so incomplex and insincere. Remake invokes the most bland and spoon-fed dialogue I've ever heard.
Oh, why are you doing this?
Because I care.
Thank you, Claire. I don't know what I'd do without you.
I know it seems like your mom doesn't care, but Sherry, just say goodbye to your mom. Mom, please say goodbye. Please, Sherry. Listen. She loved you, okay?
You were right about this jacket. I'm so lucky to have you.
We can talk more about that later. We gotta hurry now. Come on.
Claire?
Yeah?
Thank you for being so nice to me. For helping me. I'm really glad I met you.
I'm really glad I met you too, Sherry.
The amount of times Sherry thanks Claire, the amount of times she says some iteration of, I'm so glad I met you. Even Claire's obsession over Sherry gets to the point of weird. Like, look at this scene.
Sherry? Where's Sherry?
Do you know Sherry?
It's an impressive display of strength.
What happened to her? Excuse me. Where is she? Hello?
What?
Oh,
Annette.
Who's that?
The creature responsible for this.
What? Can you help me find Sherry? Seems to be over. I need to find Sherry.
My daughter is not your concern.
Annette is offering information, but Claire is so one-track minded she doesn't even care. Like, damn, if that were my daughter, I wouldn't tell you either. You're creepy. In RE2, Claire is looking for survivors, and she finds one, but she also cares about the other people she meets and what else is going on in the world. This Claire is so focused on Sherry, she doesn't pay attention to anything else at all. It's weird, and because Remake decided every character can only have one thing to care about, the hyper-focus on Sherry becomes almost disturbing. Claire doesn't seem to care about anything else, and her obsession comes from nowhere. Sherry was a lot more interesting as a character in the original as well. When you find Sherry in the parking garage, she says she can't come with you because she hears her father and thinks the monsters must be after him.
But it's dangerous here as well. You'd better come with me.
But there's something out there. I don't know what it is, but I saw it. Much larger than any of those zombies. And it's coming after me.
What was that?
That's what I was telling you about. It's here.
Sherry, wait! We've got to go now, honey, okay? If we stay here, that monster will find us. Let's go.
No, I won't.
What's the matter? Don't you trust me?
It's not that, Claire. It's because of my daddy. He's over there. I heard him call my name. Daddy must have been attacked by the monsters. I have to help him.
Sherry knows she's specifically being targeted by this monster in the station, but she also keeps hearing her father call her name and is trying to find him. This is chilling. But all Sherry does in Remake is swing arms with Leon and Claire, and despite her parents dying literally minutes ago, says,
"Hey, you guys can adopt me."
I've seen some tremendously bad takes on the internet about this, so let me just set the record straight. Claire is 19. She is nobody's mother. Claire leaves Sherry and Leon in the desert at the very end of RE2 to continue searching for Chris. Leon presumably contacts Sherry's extended family, and that's that. There's no adoption, or whatever the fuck Remake wants me to think. Remake somehow made Ada and Sherry's parts worse, if only because they're slow, but Ada's isn't even fun. I do like Iron's taxidermy room, and it makes more sense than his literal dungeon, but why is it at an orphanage? And it takes up so much space, like why not just make it Iron's house at this point? Also, where did Irons get an axe from? Sherry's like,
"I want to see where you live."
Which is weird, but also bad news, kid, because Claire literally leaves to chase after her brother in CVX the second the credits hit. Like, she literally leaves Sherry and Leon in the desert. Also, like, doesn't she live in a college dorm? Every character in this remake is a bland and one-dimensional take from the source material. Claire suffers from this as well, with her only motivation and interest being Sherry, but a prominent change to Claire in Remake is the removal of her personal goals. In RE2, Claire comes to Raccoon looking for her brother. Through his diary, she learns he and the other remaining STARS members have gone to Umbrella HQ in Europe. At the end of the game, Leon and Claire have this conversation.
It's over.
No. I have to find my brother.
You're right. This is just the beginning.
Come on. We've got to move out.
Now what's the problem? Is something following us?
Hey, we still have a job to do. Let's go.
Go? Oh, you can't mean...
Chris, I have to find you.
And that's what she does, leaving Leon and Sherry in the desert immediately after the game ends and setting up the beginning of CVX. In Remake, Claire is told by Marvin that Chris is on vacation. Claire, for some reason, believes this.
He's on vacation. Europe, I think. Left weeks ago.
Vacation? That's great news.
You find your brother?
I did actually.
Here is already a pretty big change from the original game. In RE2, a significant part of the beginning of the game is about how the STARS members wouldn't stop talking about what happened at the mansion, and how Umbrella was behind it. Marvin tells Claire they lost contact with STARS 10 days ago, about a month after they left for Europe.
Chris, Jill, Barry, every last STARS team member has disappeared. We should have listened to them. Chris and the other STARS members discovered that Umbrella was behind everything, at the risk of their own lives. But no one believed them.
So clearly, where they are and what they're doing isn't a secret. Hell, that's part of the reason Nemesis even exists. So at the end of the game, instead of going after her brother, this happens.
Is it over?
I don't know. But if it's not, we'll stop it. Whatever it takes.
Yeah, you damn right we will.
Making the change that STARS kept quiet about Umbrella doesn't make sense from any perspective, and this change is directly involved in the removal of Claire's personal motivations. Maybe I'm overthinking it and it's just more thoughtless rewrites. Maybe Remake wanted to sever connection with one of its older games, or stay its own singular story. But this ties in with another change. In the opening of the game, Claire is seen on a payphone assuring someone that she's alright and will come home as soon as she finds Chris. She has a letter in her inventory from presumably the same person. And this letter sucks. It's awful. It says that Claire must be crazy to travel alone and that there are all kinds of, quote, perverts and assholes out there just waiting for a hot, young college student. What the fuck? I've never seen something so clearly not written by a real person, let alone a fellow teenager. And I know why they included this shit too. I know it's shitty foreshadowing to the shitty addition of Irons tying up and abusing Claire. Your friend warned you that there were perverts out there looking to attack young women, and they were right. And this theme continues through to the end of the game. Leon, Claire, and Sherry see a truck on the horizon, and this alone is enough for Leon to tell Claire to get Sherry and hide. It's a truck. Why, after fighting zombies and lickers and Birkin, is a truck so threatening that two girls have to hide in the grass? This paints a really shitty picture, intentional or not. Claire is warned at the beginning of the game that traveling alone as a woman is a crazy and dangerous thing to do. This is proven to be correct, and this scene at the end shows a gross lesson being taught, one that Claire is showing she's learned. So of course Claire can't go after Chris alone. It's too dangerous. There's something in this game I really want to talk about, but for whatever reason, people get really mad when you try and talk about how women are written and how sometimes that writing is bad. It shouldn't need to be said, but Claire isn't a real person. She's a character someone wrote, someone who looked at the original script and thought it needed changing. And I think it's important to talk about why someone would think these changes are necessary. From Jill's physics in Remake to Ashley and RE4 constantly being put in situations where the player is flashed her underwear or even encouraged to look up her skirt for an achievement, to the dev team openly admitting they hate Rebecca, women in Resident Evil have always been treated a certain kind of way. There's this general opinion that because they could be treated worse, that they can't be treated better. RE2 wrote a strong character in Claire, so much that it wasn't something I even thought about until after Remake came out. RE2 never makes reference to Claire's being a woman because that would be kind of weird, right? But Remake really wants you to know that Claire's a girl and that being a girl is hard and dangerous, and being a woman and being capable is notable enough to not just be remarked on, but attributed to someone else.
Obviously someone taught you well.
Yeah, she can shoot a licker in the ass, but at the end of the day is still victim to male harassment. She can kill a huge monster, but someone must have taught her how to. Yeah, she can jump in a boss pit and say,
"This ends now."
But she's still vulnerable enough to need protection from a man she doesn't even know. In RE2, Claire's a strong character. Remake makes sure you know that Claire's a strong woman, and that there's a difference. It's hard to talk about these things because I don't think the writers sat down and rubbed their hands together and said, the remake's looking pretty good, but it could use some casual misogyny. But I do think their writing reflects why the perspective of making a strong female character is not only inherently sexist, but sets you up for inherent failure. Putting so much of your mindset and focus on making sure you're writing a strong woman means making reference that this is uncommon. So uncommon that it must be remarked on by at least 2 people. I mean, the only way this scene with Marvin could be worse is if the writer says something like, yeah, my brother did. Oh wait, they do. I think this mindset also explains some of the inconsistencies in Claire's strength, if you want to call it that. Why she can jump down willingly into a boss pit, but the sight of a truck on a road makes her hide. I think it's important to think about why scenes like this were added. Claire isn't tied up and assaulted in the original. They added that. Claire's competency doesn't need to be explained or attributed to anyone in the original. They added that. Claire doesn't hide at the end of the game in RE2. They added that. To write a strong female character is to write a strong character, to treat women as complex characters and not just complex characters for women. It's about creating a character that operates in the world you create and if their actions make sense in that world. And a game from 1998 knew this better than one from 2019.
Sucker.
Leon S. Kennedy is a character with nothing but his nature. He is kind, a little confused, and simply looking to help. So when he meets a civilian named Ada during a zombie outbreak, he thinks it's his duty to keep her safe. Ada makes this difficult by constantly running away from him in search of her missing boyfriend. This worries Leon immensely, and they have a conversation where he asks Ada to work with him so he can keep her safe. We then play a section of the game as Ada, and her fire rate is faster than either Claire or Leon's. This is the player's first indication that Ada isn't who she says she is. Ada Wong is a spy. She is undercover as a civilian in Raccoon City with the one goal of acquiring the G virus. Along the way, she meets a cop who won't leave her alone simply because his sense of ethics won't let him. Ada doesn't take advantage of this kindness, she's hampered by it, humbled by it. She runs and he worries about her, she gets hurt and he stays with her. This instills a real sense of guilt in Ada because she doesn't believe to deserve this kindness. She isn't a civilian, she can look after herself. But Leon doesn't know this, and so she's inadvertently taking advantage of him. In RE2, Ada likes Leon, likes the idea of living how he does, with nothing but her own sense of right and wrong. And wouldn't it be nice to leave the world behind and live by nothing but a sense of virtue? But that isn't realistic, and she has a job to do. But maybe she can choose this one thing, help this one person who doesn't deserve the mess he's found himself in. This is why she comes back to save him from Mr. X, even though she already has the G virus and could simply leave the city. That's why, in another scenario, she doesn't shoot him. Because Leon is simply a good person who got wrapped up in her mess because of that goodness. And he doesn't deserve to die when all he wanted to do was save as many people as possible, and she just happened to be one of them. Ada's story never involved Leon, but Leon's story would always involve Ada. I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but he isn't Leon. Leon joined the RCPD under the misguided belief that being a cop is a career where you can help people. The dev team of Remake heard cop and nothing else, because it's his entire personality. This scene at the beginning of him changing into a cop uniform is a great introduction to the character, because playing out the persona of policeman is the only thing he cares about, so it's good to see him getting into character. We're introduced to Ada in the parking garage, now rewritten to be playing a cool FBI lady, like, yeah, I saved your life, but God was it annoying. Because that trope isn't boring as hell. I actually like this one line.
Stay sharp!
Rewriting Ada so she's pretending to be FBI throws off the entire balance of her and Leon's relationship. What's Leon's excuse for following her around? What's Ada's for letting him? Originally, I thought they made this change because they wanted Ada to be an inspiration to Leon, why he would go on to become a special agent, and he's going to follow her around in an attempt to learn from her. But that can't be the case because he never treats her with respect for literally a single second.
Hey! I'm not done talking to you!
Who the hell does he think he is to be talking to her like that? And wait, where's he going? Oh god. Oh no. It's the worst scene in the game. It's the culmination of everything wrong with the writing in this remake. The butchered story, the shit characterization, the unnecessary changes that don't add anything and actively take away from the original. It's Ben! Let's try to get through this as articulately as possible. Meet Ben. We find him alone in a jail cell, ecstatic to meet another living person. Ben says Irons locked him up, and Leon responds with,
I'm sure he had a good reason.
And if I could gouge his eyes out, I would. Ben, unbothered by this response, says Irons did have a good reason. Ben has evidence that the chief is corrupt, and look at Leon's fucking face here. Ben, reasonably afraid of dying, asks to be let out of the cell. He'll even give Leon a key item if he does, and Leon looks him dead in the eye and says,
Sorry, I can't do that. I have to talk to the chief first.
The chief? What chief? You're in the middle of a zombie outbreak. You don't have a chief. You've never met the chief. What the fuck is wrong with you? How do you go from a character whose only motivation is to save as many people as possible to this absolute dickhead that wants this man to rot in a cell? What an absolute shitbag. Ben begs to be let out, pleads with Leon that he doesn't want to die, and Leon refuses to help. In RE2, Leon finds a reporter named Ben in a jail cell. Ada has been looking for him and asks what he's told city officials about the outbreaks happening in Raccoon. Ben wants to know why she's asking, and Ada mentions that her boyfriend disappeared 6 months ago and heard a rumor that he was in the city. Ben's information is about Umbrella, and that's the company her boyfriend works for.
I don't know anything, and even if I did, why would I want to tell you?
Okay, I say we leave him in there. Does anyone know where they put the key to this cell?
Even when he's annoyed with Ben, Leon is looking to save his life.
I have it right here, officer. But I'm not about to leave this cell. Those zombies aren't the only things crawling around out there.
But Ben has the key. He doesn't want to leave the cell because he's safe here, hiding from the zombies and Birkin. When they hear Birkin off in the distance, Ben tells them to leave him alone before they draw the monster right to him. Leon says he isn't going anywhere.
Like I said, I'm not leaving this cell. Get out of here before you lead it right to me.
Hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm the only cop left alive in this building.
What?
Look, if you want to live, then you're gonna have to leave with me.
Leon isn't leaving Ben here to die. He's getting him out of the city no matter what Ben may want, no matter if he's going to complain the whole time. Seemingly with a change of heart, Ben tells Leon how to clear them an exit through the sewer, and Leon leaves to secure their escape route. In RE2, Ben doesn't want to be saved. He wants to hide in a cell, but that isn't in Leon's nature. He isn't going to let Ben die here, even if he's being an asshole. Leon is bent on saving him, on saving everyone he comes across, so much is his desire to help. This guy looks at a man begging for his life, pleading for help, and says no. Cosplaying his role as a cop is more important to him than saving someone's life. You know, the only thing RE2's Leon cared about? What a horrific mischaracterization, and what an unlikable character in his own right. Upholding a non-existent chain of command is more important than protecting a civilian. And the thing about this change, about every change that they did in Remake, it's for nothing. In RE2, when Leon returns to the cell block, he hears a scream. Birkin has mortally wounded or tried to infect Ben. Leon runs to the cell, distraught, and pleads with Ben to survive.
Ben! Can you still hear me? Come on, answer! Hang in there, Ben!
Ben dies, asking Leon to make sure Irons pays for his crimes. This death is the motivation for Leon to finally have a real conversation with Ada, to convince her to let him help her, as he can't risk another death. There's no reason to change this. Leon could have met Ben and agreed to let him out. He would still need to leave the jail in order to get the items to open the door. Then on his return, Ben could be killed. Oh, cause that's another thing. Ben is killed by Mr. X in this one, which spoils his involvement in A's scenario because you haven't met him at the helicopter yet. And for what? Nothing, because he disappears again until his introduction in the upper corridor. And later, when Leon returns to Ben's body, Mr. X is just in the jail now, whereas if he had waited and killed Ben when he was supposed to, it would have introduced him into the scene instead of him just showing up. There's even scary noises happening and Leon still doesn't want to let Ben out. What an asshole. Like, our hero, everybody. Ben is killed, Leon doesn't seem to care much, but he will take that key card, thanks.
Well, I guess the deal's on.
What a piece of shit. Ada then arrives, and Leon defensively states,
I don't even know what happened, it just happened so quick.
Like he cares more about Ada blaming Ben's death on him than the actual fact that Ben is dead. Leon and Ada then discuss Ben's information while looking at his corpse with comical disinterest. Oh, and what does our hero do next? He grabs Ada and says,
Hey, you can't keep walking away from me!
Like, yeah, she can. Fuck off. And here's the major difference between how RE2's Leon interacts with Ada and how Remake's Leon interacts with Ada. This Leon isn't worried. He's entitled. She's not talking to him, but it's his right to get answers. She keeps walking away, but he didn't say she could leave yet. In the parking garage, X chokes Leon and Ada rams a car with explosives into him because it's cool and not because it makes sense. She says,
This is getting old. Saving your ass, that's twice.
In a dog shit reference to the original because this game loves to do that. Reference dialogue from the original game but change the context or result.
And just who are you? No, don't bother telling me. It makes no difference.
What's your name? What's your fucking name?
Claire!
Like I said, I'm not leaving this cell.
Look, if you want to live, then you're gonna have to leave with me.
I'll make you a deal. Unlock this cell and I'll give you this. There's no other way out of that parking garage, believe me.
Sorry, I can't do that. I have to talk to the chief first.
That's 2 I owe you.
Don't mention it.
This is getting old. Saving your ass, that's twice.
You're the one who was with that cop, if I'm not mistaken. Identify yourself. Definitely William's handiwork.
Identify yourself.
It happens enough that it has to be intentional, but I don't understand the point. Like, you're keeping the dialogue but completely changing the meaning. It's almost insulting. Oh yeah, Ada's mean in this one.
Surprised you made it this far.
FBI, huh? What's going on here?
Sorry, that information's classified.
Where are you going?
Do yourself a favor. Stop asking questions and get the hell out of here.
I told you to get out of here. You wouldn't want to end up like Ben, would you? Find a way out, Leon. Before it's too late. This is getting old. Saving your ass, that's twice. We might want to open the shutter.
She's just mean now because she's cool and competent and everyone's just getting in her way. But also, where's Leon when I need him? And please get the virus for me, Mr. Cop. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Is that the intel you needed?
Unfortunately, no. Ben didn't come through.
I know in Remake, Ada's pretending Ben was an informant, but the man just died. And the reason he didn't come through was because your best buddy Leon didn't fucking let him. The devs of Remake really hated Ben for some reason. They let him die in a pretty terrible way and then gave him a silly death animation with one of his eyeballs coming out of his skull and his tongue hanging out of his mouth. No other character in the game gets a death like this. Ben also, as a character in Remake, contributes nothing to the story. The reason why Ada wants to talk with Ben in the original was because he had been actively talking about the outbreaks happening in Raccoon. For those who don't know, there were a bunch of little outbreaks before the major one set off by Birkin. This interests Ada and works with her cover as a civilian. She says she's looking for her missing boyfriend, an employee of Umbrella, but her real goal is getting the G virus, and finding out where these outbreaks came from is a good place to start. Ben doesn't give up this information. What he tells her is about a way out of town through the sewer and old chemical plant. This is how Ada gets the information, which ultimately leads her to the lab. In Remake, Ben doesn't know anything pertinent to Ada. His information is changed and seems to have no purpose but to name-drop Annette. And in Remake, Ada already knows everything. She already knows what the G-Virus is and where to find it. Hell, she already knows who made it. She also already knows where the lab is and how to access it from a sewer located in the city. So why did Ada go to the RPD in the first place? Ada already knows everything in Remake. She doesn't learn anything during the entire course of the game. The only thing the RPD offers her is Leon. The Remake devs were like, yeah, B scenario warps to the station and writing a linear story is too hard, but remember that guy from the first minute of the game? That gun shop owner who calls Claire babe and then dies? What if we gave him a dead wife? So now we have Kendo, who really adds so much to the game, really.
I'm not gonna hurt you.
Leon just knows that's Kendo's daughter because he has that cop instinct, I guess. And Ada's ready to kill a kid because she's just so cold and professional. But thank God Leon, you know, the kind and empathetic person that he is there to convince her to let them be. What a hero. Kendo hugs his daughter and Leon hilariously steps forward like, this involves me. Call me cold, but I feel nothing but annoyance at this scene. All the characters are so misrepresented and the story is so butchered, but they really thought this guy with 30 seconds of screen time needed a dead wife and kid. It's an artificial emotional moment in place of the real emotion they cut away.
It's one thing to keep the truth from me, but why him?
What about him? You think Kendo knowing that this was caused by Umbrella research or a lab accident or even that Ada's here to put William Birkin to justice is gonna make him feel better? Why would Kendo give a shit? But whatever, nice guilt trip, bro. Oh, and here's a good joke.
Helping people like them? That's why I joined the force.
Oh, like how you helped Ben back there, right, Leon? Ada says,
my mission is to take down Umbrella's entire operation.
Which sounds a little silly, but maybe I'm just jaded at this point. It might even be a reference to the original game, like she put the idea in Leon's head.
Hey, it's up to us to take out Umbrella.
I don't know, I'm finding it hard to care about things right now.
Whatever it takes to save this city.
But like, the city's gone, bro, and aside, you're actively letting its remaining citizens die. Is this the part where I talk about the voice acting? Because this line literally makes me take my headphones off.
It turns people into indestructible monsters.
That explains the horrible things I've seen.
Why does he say it like that? Sherry's actually the best voice actor in this game, and I actually really like a couple of her lines.
Oh, I'm sorry. What? Won't open!
I don't like Claire's voice in this game at all. This weird Valley Girl thing.
I will, but I gotta go. Hello? Claire. Claire Redfield. No. I'm looking for my brother. He's a cop too. No. No. Hello? What? I'm getting you treatment. Just hold on, Sherry. It's okay.
At least her voice actor's trying. I don't know what the fuck Leon's guy is doing.
Holy shit. There, get out. What the hell? You said the virus turned people into monsters, not reptiles. What are they after? That explains the horrible things I've seen. Holy Shit! What the hell was...
Just get up here!
Alligator fight makes no sense. I appreciate them wanting to include it, you know, that's fine. But the fact that Leon jumps... Wow, that's hard to say. But the fact that Leon jumps down into the sewer like this...
You sure this is the right way?
When it clearly isn't, because Ada manages to get to the same place as him without jumping into sewage. Like, how funny would it have been to just have Ada say, "No, I don't know why you jumped in there." Here we have another great example of Leon's desire to help people. What does he do the second he finds another living person?
Identify yourself.
Man, shut the fuck up. And it isn't because he thinks she's Annette, because this is his next line.
She's who we're looking for?
Yeah, meeting another survivor gun first and treating everyone you meet like they're a threat. Real hero material, Leon. You're really gonna help people with an attitude like that.
We're here for the G-Virus.
What was even the point of Ada having a cover in the first place if the first thing she does on meeting Annette is tell her she's here for the G-Virus? The only person she's fooling with the idea of a cover is Leon, someone she shouldn't have even known she was going to run into. Why not just, like, why does she need a cover? I'm really realizing right now that her cover to get the G-Virus is that she's here to get the G-Virus. I knew that they had reduced Ada to not really be her own character and only exist in as much as Leon needs her to exist for his story, but I didn't realize how bad it was. The whole point of a cover would be to give her the element of surprise, so the idea that her cover is she's an official here to get the G-Virus already doesn't make sense. But then the first thing she does when she sees Annette is tell her she's here for the G-Virus, so there's no element of surprise, so there's no reason for her to have a cover. Unless, of course, you're only writing this character from the perspective of Leon, and then I guess she would need a cover, wouldn't she? So the only reason Ada goes to the RPD is to meet Leon, and the only reason she has a cover is to fool Leon. At this point in RE2, Ada sees Annette and runs after her. Leon follows and ends up taking a bullet for her. Ada says,
"Leon, that woman was... I have to talk to her."
And runs after her. Ada eventually catches up with Annette, and Annette reveals that her boyfriend is dead. They get into a fight, and Annette drops into the sewage below.
Too bad.
But ultimately, it doesn't matter. Ada isn't here for Annette or Birkin, she's here for the G-Virus. Leon wakes up and they reconnect. Ada patches him up after Leon begins to show fatigue. This is the scene where Ada begins to feel guilty over Leon's self-imposed sense of duty over her. How even after just being shot, he's still coming after her, still putting her over his own well-being. This is why she says,
"That's two I owe you."
In one scenario, Claire finds Leon when he's knocked out, and when she manages to wake him up, this is the only thing he has to say.
"What happened? You're bleeding!"
I ran into this woman who is in trouble. Her name's Ada. Right after that, someone tried to kill me. Nearly succeeded, too. Ada went after the sniper, but I'm worried about her. You gotta find her before something happens.
"But you've been shot."
I'll be okay. It's Ada I'm worried about.
Ada, and making sure she's okay, is his sole focus. In this scene, Ada is realizing this, how his interest in her well-being goes beyond a job title and deeper to who he is as a person, and how Leon's desire to keep her safe may ultimately end with him getting killed. In Remake, because Ada's a love interest before she's a character, she stops to patch Leon up before going after Annette, even though this makes no sense from Ada's perspective, as it's giving Annette enough time to disappear again.
You can run, Annette, but you can't hide.
I mean, you gave her plenty of time to, so... But Remake forgot Ada is here to do a job, and none of her motivations at this point should involve Leon, but whatever, I guess, because...
It's secret weapon time.
Remake makes it seem that Ada and Annette have this ongoing feud.
Always been good at running, Annette. Give me that.
When has Annette been running? She's just been working here. They've never met before, and in the original it's unclear if Ada even knows who Annette is. Annette certainly doesn't know who Ada is, and only figures out that she's a spy after doing a background check on her. But in Remake, Ada knows Annette on sight, and makes sure Annette knows she's here for the virus, because she's a good spy. Remake's storytelling is so atrocious, I don't even know if it makes sense. The scene where Ada is revealed as a spy is just her saying, "I'm a spy," like that's the reveal. There are hints in the original game that Ada isn't a civilian, like her fire rate I mentioned earlier, or how she never stays put even while injured, but we never know for sure until Annette reveals who she is at the end of the game. Before that, you can find diary entries talking about spies, and if you played Claire's game first, Annette will accuse her of being one, but Remake just tells you she's a spy 100% halfway through the game. Great. And for what? So she can tell Annette she's a spy here for the G-Virus? If Ada had never told Annette that she was a spy, Annette would have never told Leon she was a spy, and Ada would have the G-Virus. Ada accuses Annette of killing Birkin so she could take credit for the G-Virus, which is hilarious because Annette in RE2 never stops talking about how her husband made the G-Virus, and that's why she's protecting it. In this one, Ada falls and not Annette.
Where's Leon when I need him?
This is something the original Ada would never say. When Ada is attacked by a giant alligator at this point in the original game, she doesn't sit on the ground and wait for Leon to show up. She shoots it. Ada never relied on Leon in the original game because that wouldn't make sense to her character. This is her mission. He isn't a part of that. So when she gets hurt in the original, she gets up as soon as Leon leaves her line of sight and gets back to work. She doesn't need a rescue or a hero to lick her wounds because she's on a mission here alone, and if she couldn't complete it alone, she would have already had a partner. But this Ada just lays on the ground until Leon comes to help her up. Also, look at how they've posed her here. It's so funny. Why is she doing a sexy pose? Here, Leon shows us the intellectual vetting process of the RPD.
It's gonna hurt.
Watch it, King. She might get intimidated. Then he just has rubbing alcohol? Where did that come from? But whatever, I guess we have to establish that Ada won't die from sepsis.
I can do it myself.
Just relax, okay?
But Leon's cleaning out her wound isn't threatening her independence. The writer's not letting Ada do her own job. Ugh, I hate this guy.
Grab my shoulder.
On your bullet arm? Shut up. God, everything this guy says annoys the shit out of me.
Think I could fit it in my schedule? Yes, ma'am. I can't wait for the FBI to raid Umbrella headquarters and take those bastards to justice.
Shut up, boot boy. I don't know why he cares so much about wanting to bring Umbrella to justice when he was so cool with his own boss's corruption earlier, but okay.
I thought I might need your help, and I was right.
What is she talking about? Why on earth would she? Why would she hinge the entire success of her job on some random man she just met? What would she have done if Leon wasn't there? Just give up and go home? Why does the success of her mission rely on this random, unknown encounter? It's so stupid. Ada, you'll never make it as a spy like this.
If I'm gonna finish this case, you're the last hope I've got.
Man, do I even need to talk about why this sucks ass? They kiss, but instead of it coming from a place of genuine feeling, or as much genuine feeling that you can establish over the course of a few hours, it comes from a place of coercion, because Ada just can't do her own job herself, for some reason. When Leon and Ada kiss in the original game, it's in a scenario where he doesn't believe she's a spy, and she seemingly dies to save his life. Leon is also a few days out from a breakup, and Ada is dying. I'm going to talk more about this in a bit, but Ada sort of idealizes Leon in the original game, and this kiss is more than Ada saying goodbye to Leon, it's also her saying goodbye to the dream of leaving with him. It may be important to note that Leon never wants to get the G-Virus in the original game. In fact, unless I'm misremembering, he may be the only character in the game who doesn't learn anything about the virus at all until the very end. His goal is only to help as many people get out of the city as possible. That's it. Leon goes to the stupid Birkin lab where no lab work has ever been done, and the virus is just there, no lock or anything. I mean, they went through so much justification for Claire to have the key to open the cabinet, but whatever.
That was easy.
You said it, buddy.
So you made this monster.
We made the G-Virus, but we never intended
You can
this.
spin it any way you want. You're still responsible.
Like, can he stop being a dickhead for a second?
Just tell me you'll destroy that G-sample.
No, it's evidence. It's going to the FBI.
After seeing everything the virus has done, even claiming he wants to do everything he can to help this city, and helping people like them is why I became a cop, Leon doesn't want to destroy the virus. This is Leon in RE2 after learning what the virus is.
So, this is what everyone's been dying for.
Oh, I also just want to say how dumb this is, because the player isn't left wondering if Ada is a spy or not, because the game already told us that she just is hours ago. Because Remake wants Leon to be a cool guy, they have him saunter out with a whole ass speech prepared.
I was just thinking about you.
So in Remake, it's Leon confronting Ada. In RE2, Leon genuinely wants to believe Ada is a good person. He doesn't pretend otherwise, and when Ada asks him for the virus, he's confused.
I've been waiting for you, Leon. You know what this is about, so just hand over the G virus.
I don't believe this. Annette was right. About everything.
Remake's Leon claims he never trusted Ada at all, which is just simply not true. Like 2 minutes ago when he picked up the sample, he said,
Alright, now back to Ada.
She's a mercenary. She's gonna sell it. The G-Virus is gonna go to the highest bidder.
Bullshit. As much as I wanted to trust you, I didn't.
But the dev team couldn't imagine a scenario where Leon would be deceived or tricked because he's too cool for that, and look how smart he is. But they added that. Ada was never supposed to be tricking him in the first place, so they desperately wanted to look like Leon was never deceived, but they added the idea that Ada was deceiving him.
I'm taking you in.
Taking her where, Leon? The station is gone. You're not a real cop. God, he's too deep in the roleplay. His stupid shit infuriating grin here when Ada doesn't shoot him gives me enough strength to crush walnuts with my bare hands. Annette shoots Ada and Leon looks sad now for some reason, even though he was threatening to put her in jail 2 seconds ago. Sad he won't meet his arrest quota, I guess. So here's why this whole thing is so dumb. In RE2, Leon was kind of bothersome to Ada, someone who was only hindering her own progress. But with her playing a civilian and the fact that they keep running into each other, it's easier for her to agree to work together. After she gets hurt, he stays for her, and after he gets hurt, he cares more about her safety than his own bullet wound. This feeling of guilt begins to develop. Leon is only here, only with her, because of his kind nature, and it isn't fair of her, or right of her, to be receiving it. This is why the ending is significant. This is why Ada returns, even when she has the virus. This is why she doesn't shoot him on the bridge. Leon never wanted anything from Ada. He only ever wanted to keep her safe. There's no reason for Ada not to shoot him in Remake. This is, after all, the exact scenario she wanted. She wanted Leon to get the virus for her, which she would then take. So why the hesitation? It can't be because he's a cocky, entitled asshole who grabs her and demands things. It can't be this manufactured guilt from Kendo, or this weird romance that comes from nowhere but a place of manipulation. It can't be because of how he treats her when this is how he's talking to her. So what is Ada's reason to not shoot Leon when this is the exact scenario she made? In RE2's version of this scene, Ada confronts Leon, and it's worth noting that Leon never draws his gun on Ada. He never draws his gun on anyone. In Remake, Leon meets everyone gun first, except for Marvin, a uniformed officer. Not only does this show the strength in his belief that Ada won't shoot him, as well as his disbelief that she's a spy, but it plainly just makes more sense. Why would you risk drawing your gun on someone who already has one trained on you? But I get it. Leon's a cop, and he's never wrong. I get it. Here's Ada in the original as she's telling Leon she never wanted it to end like this.
That's why I told you to leave without me, but you wouldn't listen. Now hand it over. Don't make me shoot you.
Ada never wanted Leon involved with her work. It would only ever end poorly for him. It wouldn't be right. He's a good person who simply wanted to help someone who didn't deserve it. This belief fuels her guilt and ends with her making the decision to put the gun down. Even if it means sacrificing her mission and risking her career, she isn't going to sacrifice him. There are a few conversations in the game that would imply Ada is so touched by Leon's heart and plain desire to do what he thinks is right that she places him on a bit of a pedestal, that she reflects on her own sense of morality and what it means for her future. Leon liked to say they'd get out of Raccoon together, and wouldn't that be nice? A fantasy to live like Leon does? In RE2, Leon and Ada inspire each other. Leon loses a bit of his naivety and becomes more realistic in the ways he can help people. Ada gains an escape to a reality where she isn't tied to a job that she may not even want, where things could be simple and you can make a living by following your heart. In Remake, Leon makes demands and gets in her way, but she keeps him around because otherwise she wouldn't be able to get the virus, because she just intuitively knows that she could never make it to Birkin's lab, but he could. Ada plays him the whole time, so why would I believe she felt anything genuine enough for her to spare his life? This is literally what her plan was. I don't believe Ada wouldn't shoot him, and this smug attitude he has should only make her pull the trigger faster. The reliance on Leon to do her job for her is not only disrespectful to Ada's ability and independence as a character, but it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense that she would entrust the entire success of her mission to a random cop she's tricking, unless of course she's so incompetent at her own job she could never succeed with it in the first place. And Leon saying, "I was never tricked anyway," when he totally must have been. Like, you can't have it both ways. In RE2, Ada wouldn't let anything stop her from completing her job, except for the choice she made to help someone who deserved better. In Remake, Ada can't do her own job for some reason and uses sex appeal to get a man to do it for her.
Can't believe I actually miss her.
God, everything he says makes me want. Leon in RE2 is a great character. His only motivation is to help as many people as possible, and subsequently, he has no idea what's ever going on. The amount of times he gets a call from Claire or information from another character and is completely blindsided are some of the funniest parts of the game.
Ada, wait!
Leon, are you still there? We're leaving.
Are you crazy? The streets are still crawling with zombies.
It'll be all right, trust me. We found a way to the sewer. Follow us later.
Claire! Claire! Wait, wait!
What? Ada, wait! Where are you going, Ada?
To the chemical plant. I have a feeling that's where I'll find John.
Ada, wait! Hey! Ada! Those zombies are everywhere! Not to mention that thing that got Ben.
I was there, Leon. I know.
Ada!
Leon, you made it.
Claire? Is that you? Where are you?
I can see you on the monitor. But never mind that right now. Leon, you have to go back and get Sherry for me. I left her in the security office. Please, you must save her.
Wait a second! What are you gonna do? Where are you going?
I still have a few loose ends to take care of. I'm counting on you.
Hello? Claire, are you there? Claire! The security office?
I've been waiting for you, Leon.
What are you doing?
Now, where's that spy you were working with earlier? You know who I'm talking about.
What?
You really don't know anything, do you? You're so gullible.
I particularly love this scene at the end of the game where he doesn't know what's going on, but he's very supportive about it.
Claire, what's happening?
Not now. Come on, Sherry, wake up. Wake up. Please wake up. Claire? Where am I?
It worked!
This Leon has nothing of his original character. There's no humanity here, no desire to help people or cooperate in a way to survive the city. In Remake, Leon isn't worried over the safety of a civilian, he's entitled to her business and information. He's grabbing her and making demands, and following her around because of reasons of entitlement. He isn't a man with nothing but his good nature, trying to help everyone to the best of his ability. He's a man with nothing but his own entitlement. He's a dickbag who makes demands, and refuses to leave someone alone solely through reasons of his own right to curiosity. He's not only a horrific mischaracterization, he's fundamentally unlikable. I fucking hate Leon Cop Kennedy. Remake made a story with the most hollow interpretations of its characters literally possible. Like the writer played the game when it came out in '98 and said, yeah, I remember what happens. Annette only cares about science. Leon only cares about being a cop. Claire only cares about Sherry. Sherry only cares about Claire. Ada only cares about Leon, of all damn things. Characters like Irons and Ben, well, they're minor characters, so who cares what they care about? They just die anyway. The changes to these characters are so confusing and deliberate. Leon cares about helping people, so in Remake he doesn't care about helping anyone. Ada is independent, and her job and Leon are purposely separated. Ada in Remake is completely dependent on Leon to complete her job. Annette loves her family and her work, so in Remake she actively lets her daughter die and says she never really loved her husband anyway. Irons doesn't care about anyone personally, so in Remake he really cares about Claire personally. Ben wants to stay in his cell, Ben wants out of his cell. Everything seems to be flipped to the opposite, and I can't for the life of me think of why they would do this. These characters all suffer from the removal of any genuine feeling and depth, but the one who suffers from it the most is Leon, because he was only genuine feeling. So here we come to part 4, the appearance of goodwill but no actual intention. There's a running theme of insincerity in this game. Every interaction feels hollow and pretend, like it's telling you what's supposed to be happening without actually showing you anything. There are dozens of scenes like this in the game, with a sort of groan and annoyance kind of feel to them, like we're going through the motions of a script without any of the final dialogue in place. In fact, it might be every conversation. Every conversation in this remake is slow as fuck and could end several minutes before they do. For some reason, they just drag the conversation on, and have characters just continue to say meaningless things.
I take it you have the key card.
Yeah, and this. I was hoping you could explain what's on it.
Maybe. after I hear it. Let's get out of here.
Like, yeah, no shit, Ada needs to listen to the tape before she can comment on it. Everything seems to take as long as possible. Take the very beginning of the game, where the player character has 1,000 conversations with Marvin about going to the hospital. It's annoying to watch as a player because we all know how this ends, but it also feels insincere from the characters because there's no way Leon or Claire can possibly believe there's a hospital up and running in Raccoon. This continues with Marvin giving them a knife, and they treat it like he's giving them his plasma.
I can't take him.
Stop. You'll probably need this.
No, I'm not taking that. You're gonna...
Why is taking a knife such a big deal? You think Marvin's in any condition to be Ramboing this shit?
This is good news. We can get you to a hospital.
No, I am not the priority here.
Lieutenant, I'm not just gonna leave you here.
I'm giving you an order, rookie!
Hey, Marvin. We need to get you to a hospital right now. Come on, I've got you.
Go!
Look, we can still make it out of here together.
Hey. Hey, we should probably get you to a hospital.
Oh, forget about me. I can take care of myself.
No. Don't be ridiculous. You're gonna need some help.
Listen, Claire.
Marvin, come on. Let's get you out of here. Let's go.
Save yourself.
Come on. It's bad. We gotta get you to a hospital
Please,
now.
Claire.
I can't just leave you here.
These scenes are so annoying to watch, and they feel insincere from the character. Anyone who genuinely wanted to help Marvin wouldn't be saying, let's get you to a hospital, when there are clearly no hospitals. When Sherry gets sick, Claire doesn't look up the nearest pediatrician's office, she looks for a solution fitting to the situation.
Don't worry about me. Just get yourself to safety.
Don't worry about me, Leon. You take care of yourself.
Forget about me. Just go.
Hey, Leon, you're breaking up.
Forget about me. Just get out of here.
Leon? I'm sorry, you're breaking up.
Don't worry about me. Just get out of here.
These scenes exist for me to say, look at what good people these are. Look how insistent he is on saving Marvin even though it's hopeless. Look at how many times they tell each other to worry about themselves and not the other, even though that's a meaningless statement. Let's say Marvin was convinced to come. Okay, Claire, take me to a hospital. Then what? There's no escape plan, no car, no way out of the city, no hospital. Oops. Leon and Claire can never actually help each other in the game, so telling the other person to put themselves before you is meaningless because that's what they're both doing anyway. It's all the appearance of goodwill, but none of the actual intention to act on it. Leon even claims he wants to help people, but actively treats the people he meets like they're criminals who don't deserve his help. RE2 didn't need to constantly tell us, look how great these two are, how selfless. Instead, it would simply show us. Claire finds a child and her immediate priority becomes to help her. She later finds the girl's mother and tries to help her too. Leon finds 2 civilians and tries to bring them out of the city with him and mourns when he can't. All the while helping the other person make it through the police station.
Leon, come in. I found the girl, and I've cleared the wreckage that was blocking the corridor.
Got it.
Do you read me, Claire? We now have access to the back of the parking lot.
Got it.
I'm getting out of here and heading to the sewer. Can you meet me there?
I'm on my way. Leon, you have to go back and get Sherry for me. I left her in the security office. Please, you must save her.
Sherry? I've come to get you out of here. Claire is waiting for you.
These are good people doing their best to help others in a dire circumstance. A selfless character doesn't say, forget about me and help yourself. They say, what can I do to help you? There's a big emphasis on teamwork in the original Resident Evil games, and this continues into RE2. Claire and Leon are constantly helping each other throughout the game, clearing paths through the station and updating the other on newly found routes out of the city. When Claire is busy making the antidote for Sherry, she calls Leon on the radio and asks him to move Sherry onto the train. There's such an emphasis on community and the importance of working together to survive impossible odds that it transcends into the world around our characters. You find diary entries from survivors who came before you, detailing their own struggle to keep people alive. Here's one from RE2 written by one of the cops surviving in the police station. He talks about the large group of people they were trying to protect and the measures taken to secure the station. It covers a few days during which there's an appearance of an unknown creature killing 3 people. The creature is missing skin and has razor-sharp claws. However, its most distinguishing characteristic is its lance-like tongue. We have tentatively named this creature the Licker. This entry ends with them trying to find a means to fight it. In Remake, this diary is replaced with a short note that reads, "To anyone unfortunate enough to be alive," so already missing the entire point of the original entry. If this person thinks being alive is so unfortunate, why leave a note in the first place? It continues with, "We call them lickers, they're blind." This is no longer a diary entry written to add depth to the world and give you a name for a cool monster. It's now just an instruction to the player of a game mechanic. Remake cared so little about having characters survive and help each other that they even wrote it out from the people who came to the station before Claire and Leon did. In fact, helping each other is such an important part of the original game that there's an entire system based around it. The zapping system in RE2 references how a character in A scenario can do something that will help or hurt the character in B scenario. This bit of wire can be used to close the shutters in one of two areas. This cord can't help you out personally, but it may make B scenario a little easier. The armory is stocked with goods, but whatever you take in A won't be available to the person in B. For a character to be seen as selfless or even just good, you have to actually show that in their interactions with the world. Leon saying, "Forget about me and save yourself," is meaningless when he meets everyone in the world gun first, and actively lets them die without even trying to help them. It gives off the reverse impression and makes him come across as insincere and annoying. He proclaims selflessness, but never actually enacts it. Leon has all these moments of saying righteous things, and he has everyone's best intention at heart, really, but when given multiple instances putting that to the test, he never actually does. So every further interaction of him making these claims reads as disingenuous and deceptive. There's so little story in this remake, working off the mere scraps of the original, that I don't think it even makes cohesive sense. The cutscenes are either dull and moronic, nothing but fluff filling airtime, or mischaracterized and infuriating. There are so many changes made to the story and characters that are done for no reason. Thoughtless cuts and additions that serve no purpose but to further dilute the actual story they were drawing from. None of these characters seem to care about anything outside of their one designated role, mouthpieces to look nice and little else, who don't interact with the world around them in any meaningful way but are sure to be smiling the whole time. RE2 is one of the best games ever made. Its depth in characters and storytelling secure that. There's an emphasis on teamwork and the ethical need to help the people who need it most. It's unique and fun and still holds up 20 years after its release. None of the values RE2 had made it into the remake. RE2 was my first Resident Evil game, and I've always loved it, but I never realized just how good it was until the remake came out and made me look at it again with fresh eyes. I play this game semi-regularly, but I haven't watched the cutscenes since I was 13, and rediscovering these characters again was a lot of fun. But it also makes me so unbelievably sad that this is what people will think of when they talk about RE2. It doesn't even have remake in the title. This effect is already noticeable. The few times I consulted the RE wiki to refresh my memory, I found it nearly useless because all the timeline information has already been adapted to the remake. Leon and Claire met at a gas station. No, they didn't. That's just what happens in the remake. The truck driver gets bit at a gas station. Leon and Claire meet outside a diner, which, by the way, is a much better video game area. I love diners in games. That was the best part. Wait, I should preface this joke.
Things to say that will always start a fight.
The diner was the best part of Alan Wake. At the time I'm making this, RE3's remake has already been out for a few months, and considering how disappointed I was in this one, I already knew I wasn't going to buy it. That, coupled with the fact that it was coming out only a year after Remake did, was further proof of cutting corners. I've managed to avoid all spoilers about the game, but considering how much I hated this remake, as overwhelmingly well reviewed as it is, and the third game's remake doesn't even have that to claim, I can't imagine I'll ever play it or care enough to look it up. I can't say Remake is a terrible game, because it isn't. Although I think this remake is shit, I can see why some people wouldn't. It does so many of the harder aspects of adaptation right. Redesigning the RPD is hard, working out the mechanics of Mr. X is hard, and these things are done so well, it makes the parts of this game that should have been easy to adapt, the parts that were already done for them, being handled so poorly, all the more disappointing. Seeing something so misinterpreted and mishandled, Remake could have been great. It could have been a masterpiece, and that's what's so bad about it, that even with the things Remake did well, I saw so little of what I loved in the original game. But the game simply isn't a remake. The closest this game gets to being a remake of Resident Evil 2 is that her name's Claire and his name's Leon and something 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 G-Virus. If they had released this game under a different name, I wouldn't have given a shit. But it's fundamentally not a remake. It doesn't have any of the things that would make it a remake. How can something be a remake when it doesn't include anything from the original? Much like its characters, RE2 2019 has all the appearance of a remake, but none of the depth. I'm going to keep playing RE2 for the rest of my life, but downloading Remake again, even just to capture footage for this, was a chore. One I'm not looking to repeat. Hey, also, can anyone explain this ending to me? Because I still don't understand it. Leon, Claire, and Sherry see a truck on the horizon. This is so scary, apparently, that only a man can handle it, and so Claire and Sherry hide. The truck passes, and the driver gives Leon the middle finger. The truck leaves, Leon says that was weird, and they continue walking. I don't understand this. Please tell me this is a reference to something. Is this a character from one of the offshoot games I never played? Is it a reference to one of the books? Or is it just an attempt at humor, like, yeah, that guy was a dick, but the joke's on him because he's driving to Raccoon and that place is fucked? I don't get it.